right, ladies, we ready? Okay. So, our first question for you all today, and I'd like for each of you to answer the same question. When you hear the phrase living intentionally, what does it mean to you personally? We'll start with you, Ron
Me.
Yes.
Going over there first. Set me up. So when I think about living intentionally, it puts me in the framework of doing what really matters. And so oftentimes, well, before I kind of realized I was not living intentionally, it was more on the aspect of just going about my day normally. I'm checking the boxes, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, I'm giving, I'm serving, but does it really align to what I really want to do? And so I had to kind of stop and do a reflection and realize what I'm doing, does it align with my purpose? And so when I think about living intentionally, it's now about, is what I'm doing in alignment versus I'm just moving and I'm going about my day. How am I aligning with what I want to accomplish?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, this was the hardest question, I think, Lisa, because how do you encapsulate living intentionally? But to me, it's really about the small things that add up to the bigger picture. I consider myself a big picture person, personally and professionally. But it's the small things that you do every day, the things you do when you wake up in the morning, how you start your day, how you end your day, how you choose to interact, and the spaces you choose to show up in, like today, right? That really should align with your purpose, right? Your truth and who you are. It reminds me of a Bible verse, Zechariah 4:10, that talks about not despising small things or small beginnings in the New Life Version. And every day, those small beginnings, or those small things, they add up to the big picture.
Living intentionally for me, when I hear it and I think about it, it reminds me that life is short. And life is too short for me not to do and be who I want to be, when I want to be it, how I want to be it. And so living intentionally for me, specifically coming from the pandemic and seeing so much loss, made me really reflect on what is it that I want? What's the purpose for my life? And how am I going to live it authentically based on me and nobody else? And so as I live intentionally now, I really focus on that tomorrow is not promised. And so everything that I do today and in this moment may be all that I have. And so I'm going to do everything and anything that I want to do and can do in this moment for me. And knowing that if I take care of me, others will be taken care of. But it has to start about me.
Okay, for me, I would say living intentionally means no longer living on autopilot or performing for approval. So, as we go into life, we're like, okay, is this opportunity good for me? Does it look good on paper? Is it fulfilling me? So a metaphor y'all will hear a lot, I always use a donut. A donut is very sweet on the outside and it's good, but it's an empty calorie. So that's my thing of living intentionally, making sure that you're being nourished, making sure whatever I do has protein in it, making sure it's going to be fulfilling. So that's my take on that.
I love that. Thank you. How did you gain clarity on your values and begin aligning your life with them, Marquetta?
Okay. Clarity came when I got tired of fulfilling everybody else's cup. I had to see what looked good for Marquetta and what made Marquetta cup full. So clarity was one of those things like aha moment. We all have those aha moments and we're looking like, okay, but we did all this for this person, but what am I getting in return? So that was my clarity moment when I would say just, understanding, hey, is this for me or is it for somebody else?
Clarity has come from me with life situations, circumstances, ups and downs. that didn't make me feel good, right? And when it didn't feel good, I got real clear about what I didn't like. I got real clear about how it made me feel, how it hurt me. And from that perspective, I then got even clear about what I wanted, what was important to me. But it honestly started with clarity of what I didn't like, that I didn't want to feel like this anymore, that I didn't want to do this anymore. And so from there, it was easy for then me to say, well, what is it that you want to do? If it's not this, then it has to be this. And for me, there was no in between. It's either I'm going to feel good about it or it has to go. But it came from just life in general and situations, circumstances, and people too. That I got real clear that they no longer suited my life. They no longer suited where I was intentionally going. And so from that perspective, I was able to get real clear on what I needed and what I wanted from there.
It provided the alignment that you needed. I love that. Okay, Penda.
So clarity and alignment, two of my favorite words. Probably at work, they get tired of me using it. But for me, I gained clarity pretty early in life. My childhood was, I would say, a good one, but it came with a lot of challenges. So by the time that I was in college, when most folks are just, still just going along in the dream stage, I ended up with cancer. So I was only 19 years old. And so, obviously that brought a lot of trauma, but it also really shifted my perspective in my young life. And I think that's when I knew that I would spend the rest of my life pretty much between family and really empowering youth and their families and community around not just health, but a lot of other determinants of success and outcomes, especially in marginalized communities. And so probably the reason that I'm even on this panel, Lisa saw a LinkedIn post that I did when I transitioned. I was Vice President of Strategic Partnerships for Big Brothers Big Sisters, Metro Atlanta. Shout out to Big Brothers Big Sisters, because they're a great mentoring organization if you're thinking about becoming a mentor. And I was transitioning over to my present organization, which is Blood Cancer United, which I do a lot of the same thing, resource development to help folks in the community around health outcomes. But I say all that to say one thing about living intentionally was kind of what I did to prepare for that post. Another shout out to Nick Nelson, who is a brandpreneur. I don't know if anybody has worked with Nick Nelson, but I was really trying to figure out at this point in my life, not just making a pivot from education and youth development, but to a health organization, but really an evolution. And I think living intentionally, really, it's really focused around that evolution, right? Mm-hmm. There are times we have to pivot, like Absolutely. Tiffany and I were talking about, like, in the environment we're in today. But really, if you're living intentionally, you understand that you're evolving, you're always changing. And so I wanted my post to kind of be that intro into how I was evolving. But then I kind of just realized that, as far as your brand is who you want to be known as, right? That's how you want people to see you. But when you think about your purpose, right, and aligning your purpose, that's who you want to be remembered as, right? That's something that lasts way longer than changing a job or, starting a business or changes in your family when you become an empty nester, when you used to be, all of those things. Your purpose truly is the way you want to be remembered. It's your legacy.
Oh, so mean. Can you repeat the question again, please?
Absolutely, I'd love to. How did you gain clarity on your values and begin aligning your life with them?
I'm going to be honest. I was running away from what I was actually feel like I'm called to do. And so it wasn't until I took the Gallup Clifton Strengths test. Oh, God, let me tell you, I'm all blue, which means I'm relationship builder. And so in a world where everything has to be strategic, there's a need for execution, I'm like, relationship building. I'm missing something. Where's my strategic planning? And, and so I was running away from that. And I'm like, but that's just me. And I had to really kind of sit down and say everything that I was doing in life centered around being a connector, building relationships with individuals, fostering partnerships, and that was my niche. And so my mom will always tell me, you are anointed, you have a gift, you need to use it. And so I had to say, stop running, because when you're running from what God has called you to do, it's either He gonna force you to do it. And so I said, well, let me stop fighting it and just go head on and walk into it. And once I began to walk into that level of clarity, every step I began to take was so aligned and on point. And so the doors began to open, things would begin to be very strategic in what I needed. So that was really my clarity, because I had to kind of really say, okay, that's you. And I had to deal with it, accept it, and I own it. I am all blue. My top 5 is blue, and y'all will see I don't meet a stranger. So I'm gonna talk to you, but it's those relationship building piece and being able to be a connector, understand other individuals' feelings, see things in other individuals before they see it in themselves is what makes my role so easy to do. And that's the part that I enjoy. That is my why.
Love that. And you mentioned how God was pushing you to do it, and you were running away from it. You can't win that fight. You gotta. So I'm glad you recognized that. So Upendo, let's talk about overcoming challenges. What obstacles have you faced while trying to live intentionally, and how did you navigate them?
Okay. I thought the question also had to do with women and overcoming challenges, right? So I'm gonna align with both my personal and
That's another question, but
women.
yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me
It's
make
okay,
sure
darling.
I'm on the right one. Okay. Well, challenges and how I overcome them, and I'll talk about it from a women's perspective. At least that's how I thought about the question.
Absolutely.
So intentionally, and I brought up family was always going to be, and is just so important to me. When I was still in my 20s, I had started my career, graduated from Alabama A&M in finance, started in finance. So I was in my career, I was working for one of the largest corporations, working as a business analyst, loved the work. And so it just became hard for me to balance that and family. So I decided to step back away from my career. It was a good career, so it wasn't one I was trying to run from. But just having to make the hard decision that I was going to focus full time on my family. At that time, I just had one child, and found myself when I stepped away from my career. I was happy with what I was doing. I was happy with how I was supporting my family, but I was getting so many voices, close voices that were just questioning my decision, questioning, I guess my representation as a woman and as a Black woman, stepping away from my career. What example was I setting? Which I would have 3 girls later, so all of those things. So I joined a group here in DeKalb County called the South DeKalb Mocha Moms, and I don't know if you ever heard of Mocha Moms. But it was like my lifesaver, like the literal one that you're in on water, right? So we are achievers, and so people's opinions matter. Joined Mocha Moms and met all kind of dynamic women who had made the decision that I had made, but were dealing with the same thing that I was dealing, which was being sort of ostracized in many ways. And we were there as support for each other, because really life is about, those sacrifices, right? And those compromises in many different ways, not just my example. But how do we get through those challenges as women? It's really the support. Yeah. Like you have to open yourself up to give and receive. And today, some of those women are, most of them, they're just doing amazing things. So it's not, it wasn't, well, you gave up everything. It's your evolution. Now We have a federal judge appointed by the President Barack Obama. We have folks who lead the education department of Morehouse, business owners, myself. I'm proud of the things that I've done. But at some points in life, you do have to make certain sacrifices. But I say the biggest way to get through those challenges is to find your village, your support.
Love that.
Yeah.
Marquette?
I would say my biggest obstacle was unlearning who I thought I was aspiring to be. Unlearning to shrinking in rooms. So a backstory, I am from Jackson, Mississippi, went to the Jackson State University. I used to be afraid to say that out loud because I felt that my name didn't fit in those rooms that I aspired to be in. So I would say that those were big obstacles to me. So I had to unlearn silence. I had to unlearn the idea that success meant suffering, that what I thought was a value for me was not for me. So I had to unlearn those things, and those are big obstacles. And just living intentionally, right? It cost me comfort. It cost me losing some friendships, but at this point, I'm like, okay, who cares? I had to say, okay, Marquetta, you are the Marquetta Teshae Price Hemphill. You went to the Jackson State University, but those things are what shaped and molded me and to help me fit into those rooms that I thought I would be in. But now I'm a whole walking, living, breathing brand on my own. So those would be some obstacles. Just learn to be like, okay, girl, you got it.
Okay. Tiffany?
I think the biggest challenge that I ran into, and I don't know if it was my challenge or it was their challenge, that
You ain't
right, right.
Sometimes it's not your problem,
Exactly,
it's
it
theirs.
is, right? People, you moving differently, right? And my husband told me I was moving differently because where I was always accessible and I handled everything, and it was not that I didn't want to anymore, right? And it became real clear that even with my husband, and your husband, you do that. I was tired, and in being tired, I realized that if I keep giving, they will keep taking. And so for them, the challenge was what I heard them say is you're telling me no, and no is a complete sentence. And for them, I guess maybe it was more, but for me, it was just like I kept hearing the chatter, but I ignored the chatter, right? I ignored it because it didn't feel good anymore. It didn't suit me anymore, right? I love my husband, but I can't be all things to him, me, the dog, the cats, the family, the job. And I literally made a decision that I didn't want to be and I didn't have to be because it was impacting my health. And while, we will struggle through it and we don't feel good, but we still get up and we move, I didn't want, because I didn't want my body one day to say I'm not doing it. And I wanted to make the choice before my body shut me down. And so as he began to say I was moving differently, and I had to have a real conversation with him about, yes, I'm moving differently, and here's what that means, right? I love you, but, and I have a loving husband, and he got it, right? And it doesn't mean that he stopped coming to me, but he started to accept my no as a full sentence. And sometimes my no was really just not right now, right? And he started to get that piece of it. But I had to get in alignment with that, right? Because you feel bad about saying no when that's not your normal statement. Now I get used to it. It feels kind of good, right? And now people, instead of me saying no, like when someone walks in my office, I can just give them the look, and I'm like, I'm okay, I got that. Like they don't even ask anymore because they recognize the face. And so now the face turns them around where the mouth doesn't even have to say anything.
It feels really good to be around like-minded individuals. Like seriously, I think that is where I would probably lead to, is that one obstacle is really learning how to say no. And so you go through and it says love your neighbor as you love yourself. And when you are in the position and you're constantly pouring into others and you're doing things, you tend to neglect yourself. And so when you really learn the power of what no actually does for you, it does change, and everyone doesn't get it because your movement looks different. You walk different, you talk different. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of lost some friends shifted, right? And I had to be okay with that. That alignment, once you're in alignment, everyone doesn't go on that journey with you. And so there's a season for everyone. There's a season for the things that we're doing. And I had to be comfortable with saying no. And I had to be comfortable in the shift that I was making, because back to that relational piece, I'm like, oh, well, what they're going to think about what I'm doing. And I had to say, it's not about them, because I've poured, I've given, and now it's my time. And so in order for me to grow, I had to make intentional movements, intentional shifts, and I had to overcome and learn the power of what no actually means.
I think you touched on something that I'd like to just kind of say too, because you said once you said no, you thought about how it impacted you, but that no also helped that other person as well. Sometimes we enable because we continue to say yes, and we, don't have any boundaries, so they continue to come to us. But when you say no, you give them the power to find somebody else, and maybe they figure out on their own, you know what? Just like you said, when you walk through the door, I got it. I can figure out how to do it on my own. I don't need Ronshavius, Miss Tiffany. Let me figure this thing out, right? Because at the end of the day will end, but but they need that to move on and to grow. And they don't see it right then, but they probably would thank you, some of the ones who didn't shift away, but they know that, what I'm asking her, I probably wouldn't even do it for her. You know what I mean? So let me reevaluate what I'm asking. Okay, I just had to say that. So let's start with you, Tiffany. How does living intentionally shape the impact you make and the legacy you're building?
How I live intentionally now sets the example for those who come after me. It sets the example for my niece, who's like my daughter to me, right? I show her that it's okay. She's a people pleaser, and she gets it honestly, right? Because we are family that always showed up for folks, and so how I live today is showing her that you got to show up for you first, and so it sets the legacy with my staff of. I don't have all the answers, and if I have the answer, I'm not going to give it to you because I need you to be able to figure it out. It's in you. You can do it. But if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but if you teach him how to fish. Mm-hmm. And so my legacy is I'm there to support, but there are boundaries to it. And, and even at Girls Inc., we teach our girls at age 5, we talk about relationships. And the first relationship that we say is that you have a right to your bubble, and no one has the right to come in your bubble. So when someone comes in, they have to ask for permission to give you a hug. That's the first thing we talk about with relationships at 5. And so if I teach them that at 5, right, then how is it that I haven't figured it out at almost 50? And so the legacy that I want to teach them that, but I want to reinforce that. But how I reinforce it is how I show up in it every day. So when I come in and I see my babies and they're having programming, I say, how you guys doing today? And I say, can I give you a hug? So that they get that Miss Tiffany is reciprocal. We teach people. We teach people how to treat us. And so the legacy that I leave is a legacy of being intentional. And I want them to see it, but they have to see it in how I demonstrate it. And so how I show up in being intentional, how I support them so that they then teach the next generation. And they show up as their authentic and intentional self, right? But it all is all about me and how I do it today for the legacy that I want to live for tomorrow.
That. Ron Shavius. How does living
Just
intentionally
looking at me. Just like, let me get ready. Here she comes.
How does it shape the impact you make in the legacy you're building?
This little ordinary servant has an extraordinary purpose, and I had to learn that. And so shaping it, it was understanding what impact am I doing. And so the legacy was all about what impact am I leaving. And so I'll give y'all a quick story. I had a student to call me the other day, and she's actually a student here at Georgia State, and she said, hey, Ms. Strozier, I just want to talk to you. I'm getting ready to transfer schools. And I was kind of hurt, but I'm like, okay, well, talk to me. But pretty much her whole story was surrounded by her parents was moving, and she made the executive decision that she did not want to move with them, and she wanted to stay. But in order to stay, she had to find a university that had housing. And so I'm like, okay. But the backstory to that was when she graduated from high school, it was all about, I wanted to go into the military, because what she heard from her parents was, we don't have any money for school. So she was like, military was it. But I got a call from a teacher that said, hey, can you help this student out? So we met, came up with a plan. She's here at Georgia State, signed up for our State Farm Live Scholarship, full tuition, not paying for anything. But what I got from that, which validates the work and the impact and the legacy, is that she's now at a point to make that executive decision on her own of what is my next move. And to be able to say to your parents, I know I love my mama, but I'm really glad that I spoke to you. I'm really glad that you were here to be able to guide me and say, here's an option, an alternative, because she's here, she's thriving. Matter of fact, she had made her own dance club and performing, so she's building her resume while she's here. And that's the part that validates the work, it validates the legacy. So when I think of legacy, it's about, as I'm building, what opportunity am I giving to the next person to build? So.
Okay. Impact and legacy. So, I always think about to whom much is given, much is required, right? And that's just how I try to live my life. But going back to family is my legacy. It's the reason and impetus for 4M DuBois Strategy Group. I thought about the name. It needed to keep the name of my family in it because everything that I do really stems from that. But fortunately, I'm in the third quarter, so I think of the quarters of life. The first quarter, I was a dreamer, as most of us are when we're younger. I know we're in a multi-generational room. And then that second quarter, I told you guys I had a reality check. And for a lot of us, we get that reality check when we come off of our college campuses. I went to an HBCU. I came out into the world. I was like, oh my goodness, y'all not going to treat me like I'm the best thing since sliced bread, You're trying to dim my light. And I was told my light is the brightest and the best, right? So came straight onto corporate America and, got that reality check. And then, pivots come from that, evolutions come from that. But I'm in the third quarter. And in the third quarter, much like my fellow panelists, I've learned the power of no and boundaries and self-care. And ensuring that I have the right circle around me, and doing the work that I want to do. So I'm fortunate that I've been in a career that gives back to the community, that I can look back and I can see data, metrics, and outcomes that say, I left an impact on the Atlanta community and abroad. And hopefully with my business, I'll do even more of that because I'll be able to make choices about the projects that I take on that I may have been limited to based on leadership and executive decisions. So that's sort of where I am today in the third quarter, and then who knows what the fourth quarter holds. But I'm sure I'm going to make sure that it's aligned with my legacy.
I love that. Love that impact. Yes. Marquetta?
So for me, when you live intentionally, right, your impact becomes real. It's not performative, it's not temporary, and it's definitely not tied to a title. So that's impact. Like, I remember one person came to me when I was working my corporate job, and I told him about the book, and he was like, I was like, you know, ain't nobody go get that book. Like, don't nobody know me. And he was like, if you can make an impact on one person, would you still write that book? And he don't know, to this day, I still use that title because that one person that bought the book was him, and he told me how much it helped change his life and his outlook in life or whatever. And I'm like, okay. And so when it comes to legacy, legacy is not what people say about, is not just what people say about you when you're gone. Another quote that I love to say myself, I'm a perfume fanatic. Like, I love perfumes, colognes, the whole nine. And so my biggest thing when I leave a legacy is not just to my girls or my family, it's how I make somebody feel. So I would love to be that fragrance that's left inside the room. That's what I feel is a legacy. So that's my take on that.
I love that.
Okay, perfume.
Yes. We're going shopping.
Okay. As women, what unique challenges do we face when it comes to living intentionally, and how can we support one another? And I think I had to have one in there that was like, you know, around Women's History Month. But I think you answered this question similar to this. Yeah, you're good. I'm going to skip you because I like the fact that you talked about your tribe. And this is something that I try to share with everyone. Find your support system. And I know I'm not answering the question, but I just want to mention that I think that is so important because when you find that tribe, that's when, you know, you've got those individuals that you can always reach out to. You know, I got my business bestie here. She's also a good friend of mine. I've got another good friend here, a couple friends here, right, that I can always call and say, hey, can you tell me, or what's this, or am I crazy? Because I'm thinking da-da-da-da-da, right? So with that being said, I'm going to go to Ronchavius.
So I'm going to answer this question backwards. So indulge me for a moment. So how many of you all have pretty much told somebody, it's okay, you can get it the next go round? Raise your hand. Yes. Okay. We're at a university. We all most likely high school, college educated. We had a paper due, but we almost missed the deadline, and we emailed that professor to say, hey, can I get a grace period? And that professor said, okay, here's the extension. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I say that is grace. So someone has extended that grace to you. And when I think about the challenge is that grace is in that moment that it humanizes us to say we're human, and it's okay to take a pause, and it's okay to take a rest. And so I realized the challenge is learning how to give grace to myself. And with that, I think you mentioned something about rest earlier, is changing the language versus, oh my God, I'm tired, I'm feeling like I'm lazy, versus I'm actually about to rest because I done put in some work hours and yes, and so I'm about to rest, and it's not about me being lazy. And when I say, how can we support one another? It's all about making sure we give ourselves that same grace that we give others. Speak that same language to ourselves that we do to others. And so that is the challenge that I think when you are living intentional, is how to provide grace to yourself in that moment of saying, I am human. It's okay to pause because God says his grace is sufficient enough. And so we have to be able to accept that. And we have to be able to speak that same language to ourselves. And I think that is where we support each other, because when they see you doing it, then they would do likewise.
That was a fantastic response, because I often have to remind myself that I need to lay down somewhere. And one of my goals is to get to a space where I can take a nap during the middle of the day. Yes. Where I can take a nap during the middle of the day as I'm still living intentionally and doing all the things that I aspire to do. I want to make sure that I can just lay down for a minute. Okay, so I love that. Thank you, Ronshavius.
Marquetta.
For me, we as women are often taught that, you know, you do everything for everybody else, and we call it strength. I remember my grandmother coming home. She worked a full-time job. She came home and she cooked for my granddaddy. She cooked for me. She made sure my homework was done. But I never seen my grandma take time out for herself. And so we carry these expectations, we carry this pressure, and we silence it like it's normal. That's not normal. Like that is not. So living intentionally as a woman means choosing yourself without apology, because who cares at this point? It's all about you. And we need to learn how to support each other and not compete. So if your crown is crooked, hey girl, let me tip to the little side, let me let sure your little edge is laid. Like, that's how we do that. And we have to remind ourselves, each other also, that we not only earn rest, peace, and respect, but we deserve it.
That's right.
So that's my take.
I love that.
I don't have a whole lot to add, right? Because they really said, because, you know, when you think about it, and I think especially as Black women, we're told, my mother told me real early that I was a triple threat, that I was a Black woman, that I was Black, I was a female, and I had a disability. And so I had to then be 3 times as good or better than anybody else, that I didn't have room to fail. And so I internalized that. So everything that I've done in this, it has been a race to be better than everybody else because I couldn't fail. That the world would not accept my failure, right? But what that did to me internally was how I didn't live an authentic, intentional life. Because I was living a life where my mother told me I couldn't fail, right? And while that is true, there were ways I could have done it and still been intentionally and still been all of those pieces. And so as women, and especially as Black women, we understand the innateness of what we have to be and who we have to be it for because of how this world is set up. But it goes back to the grace of it, right? How do we give ourselves grace? But as other women, knowing this about ourselves and knowing this about others, how do we give each other grace? When I do say no to you, that you don't give me the stink eye. That you don't stop returning my phone calls, and you know, how is it that not just that I can give me grace, but you give me grace? And not get mad and not roll eyes and roll heads. How does my sister support me in the grace? And so I think that is, you know, an important piece that as we move as women, is that, you know, not putting ourselves, we're on these pedestals, but these pedestals wobbly now, right? And sometimes I'd rather be closer to the ground than be on that pedestal, right? Because at any time, somebody can come and kick it from up under me, and I'm gonna hit the ground anyway. So how do my sisters support me in the grace of it?
One habit, mindset shift, or action step someone can take to start living more intentionally today? Throw that at you.
Okay, my thing, I'm gonna go back to my metaphor again, a donut. You have to realize, like, does this nourish me or is this empty calories? So am I doing this but for somebody else, or am I doing this for me? So I would say always ask yourself that question first before you do anything, to make sure you're putting yourself first. So always, like I say, hold a donut and just make sure before you make that decision, is this just an empty calorie or is this really fulfilling?
I would say in order to start living intentionally, you have to be intentional about your relationship with God. Because if I can intentionally recognize that this is not about me, but it is about Him, and my strength doesn't come from me, and that it comes from Him. And if I can intentionally start with my relationship with Him, then everything else moves in accordance. But He has to be my first step, right? Because then I don't have to worry about everybody else. He'll take care of everybody else, right? He'll take care of me and anything else. But that, I think, to live intentionally is to intentionally find your place of your space of rest and strength in Him.
Habit, I would say gratitude, like just have an attitude of gratitude no matter what's going on. A mindset shift for me was more about the courage to be different, right? The courage to, embrace your walk no matter what other people think about it. And then I think you said the action item. For me, it has just really been intentionally building community. And that sometimes means for me, especially stepping into entrepreneurship or whatnot, is extending myself beyond my inner circle. So I have that tribe, but I'm pretty protective of it, and I don't let everyone in my space, and I don't offer myself to everyone's space. Hence, that's why I'm glad I'm here today with Coach Lisa. That's somebody I would accept their invitation, but I have to do better about that because things move so fast in the world, and you really do need people. We receive our blessings through people. I'm a relator myself, and in order to do that, I asked God to help me to enlarge my territory, and so that means that I have to have more interactions with folks who may have something for me that that I need, and vice versa. So it's been a joy to meet everyone here today, but doing more things like that, building my community beyond my tribe.
Yes, I love that.
And habits. Loving on yourself. So I'm going to ask this question. When was the last time somebody clapped for you? And I had to sit and think about that. Because if I sit here and wait for somebody to clap for me, it may not never happen. And so the habit that I'm learning to do is to clap for myself. Because I'm doing the work. I really am. And so what's the song? You don't need your friends hype you. I'm going to hype myself up, right? So that's the part that I am learning to do, embrace, and I'm going to clap. Matter of fact, can y'all just clap for your own selves? Because, I'm certain we have a book publisher, we have some phenomenal educators, we real estate. We're doing it. The panel is doing it. And so we have to be in a position to give ourselves credit for the work that we're doing and not seeking that validation from anybody else. So what I just strongly encourage is that habit is learning how to give yourself praise and stop waiting for somebody else to do it.
I love that. Yes, ma'am.
Love it.
All right. So before we go to the very last question and we close this thing out, I want to ask the audience, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask our panelists today? Any other questions? Comments? Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm 23 right now. I just graduated college, so I'm like fresh into the world.
Congratulations.
And so I would say, looking back at yourself at 23, what advice would you give to yourself?
That's a good one.
I would tell myself that I was enough. That I was enough. That I didn't have to. I was enough. Everything that I was enough right then and there. And that the person that I found myself at 23 again trying to be that triple threat. But I was enough. Right? I had done enough. I was enough. And instead of trying to prove everything to everybody else, all I had to do was prove it to myself. But you are enough.
I would add too, I know I was at Jackson State, and at 23, I had graduated with my bachelor's in piano performance, child. Why I did that, do not know why. Piano performance, yes. That's a degree. It's a degree. It's a legit degree, yeah. Yeah, right. And I did it for my granddaddy because he wanted a Beethoven in the family, right? Okay, granddaddy. But I did that for him, and as you stated, I would have went back to school to do marketing. Or forensic sciences. I wanted to be a CSI agent. That was my dream. So I would say, Marquetta, girl, the piano is fun and nice, but that's a side habit. And I would have put myself first and not somebody else's dream, because I put myself behind, and it took me years to find out, okay, I love you, granddaddy, but this is my life that I want to build. So I would have told myself, and I too was one of those kids where I had to be great at everything. I had to make sure I had all A's, and I had to succeed. I didn't have a choice to fail. But I would have told myself, it's okay to fail, and it's okay not to play the piano. Okay?
You still play it now?
No, ma'am.
You don't?
No, ma'am. I have not touched a piano probably since I've been here in Georgia, about 12 years. Yeah.
Wow.
I probably still can play, but I don't know.
Yeah, you probably can still play.
I don't know. But
I'll just say live. And enjoy life. Live and enjoy life. You're going to make mistakes. I mean, enjoy it. Because as long as you keep living, everything else I probably did a little bit more of enjoying. But my sister's looking back like, you probably didn't need to. But enjoy. Live and enjoy. Take advantage of every opportunity that come your way. If I look back, I wish I did things like study abroad, maybe did a few internships, so I can kind of use that now in my storyline to students and be like, you should do this, because I didn't take advantage. So take advantage if an opportunity comes, take advantage, and that's how you learn, and you can determine whether or not you like it or you don't like it. And if you do, take it and keep it moving.
She's heard my advice her whole life, so I won't even worry about giving any more advice. But I will say, thank you to my daughter for being here to support me, because I've spent my life making sure that she's the beautiful, strong woman she is today. And it really warmed my heart to see her walk in and say, I'm gonna support you today, Mom. So that's the cycle of life. Yeah.
I'll just say for me, and I use this even today, is to do it scared. I think when we're young,
It's like, I'm not gonna do that. I don't know, But if I could tell myself something to do at 23, because I'm all this now. If I was 23 doing it when I was scared, oh my God. But I would absolutely say do it scared. It's gonna be, you're gonna get opportunities. I think Shavia just talked about opportunities, and sometimes we're afraid to take on those opportunities for whatever reason. But I would not let it be because I was afraid of the opportunity, the outcome, whatever it may be. I'm leaving home, my friends ain't going. I would just do it anyway. Yep. All right, any other questions? Yes. So for me, it would be to create a plan so that you know exactly where you're going. But first of all, I just want to applaud you for starting over, because the first thing that came to mind was just do it. Don't let anything deter you. I know sometimes there are obstacles that may be personal, that we may say, oh, I can't do that right now. I always tell people you either defer or deter your dreams. Either you say, you know what, now's not the time, or you say, I'm gonna wait till the kids get in high school.
I started my doctorate program when she was 4 months old. So
Yeah.
whatever, you can do it.
Yep, absolutely. You can absolutely do it. So I just say, go for it, keep going, but absolutely also create a plan so you know that you don't miss all the other things that you want to do. I'm a big believer in writing it down. That's actually my first rule of goal setting, is making sure you're writing everything down so you can go back to it, it's documented, and you can always go back and see how fabulous you were after you've accomplished all those goals. Or what triggered you or what made you stop, right? Like, you know what I was doing? I got right here and then I stopped. What was that? You know, what time of my life was that? But I can always pick it back up and keep moving. So that would be my advice. Oh, sorry, April. Did anybody else have? Okay.
I didn't want to ask this question, but I think God told me I was going to ask you. So my question is, anyone who feels like they want to take a stab at this one, what do you say to, April Nova, 46 years old, was at the top of my game, working for Microsoft, really amazing work around nonprofit capacity building, connecting nonprofits to Fortune 100, 500 companies to fulfill their mission critical goals around community investments around AI technology, et cetera, building brands. So you think about technologies at every intersection. And so I played in all those spaces. Our team got disbanded. I lost everything. From the $1 million home to this and that, and rebranding and building, and at a very cool place, very cool intersection, doing amazing things, doing really cool work, but in seeing impact in person, like in live, like it's happening right now, but yet at the same time being able to say, I told my friend when I was texting her, I was like, going to this event, and I don't really want to hear what they have to say because I don't want to confront the fact that I'm there but I'm not there. And I was like, I don't think I want to hear that today. And I was like, she was like, just go, don't analyze it, don't overthink it. That's not the right thing. But I was just like, all right, I'm gonna go. And I was just gonna ask, what do you say to a person when they're just like, do it? Because it's like everything's great, it's good, things are, you're building, but you're still like feeling like you're losing at the same time. And it's like, what do you say to that person where it's just like, I would prefer to check out, but I can't.
All right.
I would say for me, because that happened to me December 19th, 2025. She know this story. I'm at the top, right? I'm like, uh-oh, Mike, okay. I'm at the top thinking I'm in, working for this great company. I'm doing it. Like I said, I'm from Jackson, Mississippi, so my friends are looking at me like, okay, she the it girl, she got out, right? And I'm like, okay, this is cool. The guy said, okay, girl, you've been asking for this promotion, and he snatched the whole job away. And January 2025, so 24 is when I got laid off. 25, Lisa had Sips and Dreams. And I was like, I ain't want to go, just like you. I didn't want to go, but Lisa is a big visionary. You put your vision on paper and make it plain. I always had the I Got Donuts brand in my head, but I was the same. Like I said, don't nobody want to hear that, right? I put my book on paper in May 2025. Dr. Zenobia published my book. And when I tell you, the advice what I would say to give you is listen to yourself and get peace, because I was you. I used to go to career days, and I'm so braggadocious about telling everybody else about Comcast, but what do they know about Marquetta, right? I remember going to a career day, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna tell these kids. No, Marquetta, you're an author, you're an entrepreneur, you have a nonprofit, you are that girl. And it's the same for you, just stepping into your potential, because sometimes God removes us from a room because your potential is too great to stay there. So put yourself first. And you got it, girl. You got it.
I would tell you, God is still able. He's still on the throne. The same God that was there when you were at the top is the same God who's with you right now. He knows the path, and he knows the path that he has ordered for your steps, and he knew this was going to happen. And he's preparing you even in this moment and in this space. And so because he is still God, Alpha and Omega, he's still covering you, he's still shaping your life, he's still making a way. And so trust him. Trust him through it all.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to use this affirmation at the end, but there's so many, I'll use this one. I was in a room of women for a 50th birthday last week, but it was a wellness. She decided to do a wellness birthday. We were kind of disappointed, like where the drink's going to be, whatever. But it was so good because at the end we had to go through this affirmation. And when we really looked around the room, we realized like how all the things we've all been going through, whether that was divorce, loss of job, we're in an environment right now. Everyone had been going through things, but the last song and affirmation was everything works out the way it's supposed to. And we as strong women, it's very hard for us to relinquish control, right? We didn't get to where we are by just happenstance. We've been intentional. But understanding, and we know where that power comes from, that everything works out the way it's supposed to. And so, that is something we cannot control, the outside environment. And as long as we're in line with our purpose, I can't imagine what you're going to do with what you just described to us, right? You should be in spaces that maybe you haven't been before with the power of AI in our community where we're not, we even haven't even begun to harness it yet. So I'm excited for you, in fact. This shift in your life is going to be amazing. And I believe that, and I hope you do too.
No, what's coming to mind is the room that you was in was too small for you, right? And sometimes God has to remove us to make sure that environment is suitable. My sister always tell me a vision with the right supervision have provision. And I think at this moment, it's like, show me God. And this is that moment where sometimes we got to step back and let him do his thing because he's been doing it. So it's like, try him. Like, okay, I'm stepping back. I'm going to let you do what you do best because you're the only one who could do it. So you got it. I wish you great success. I know it's coming. Definitely will keep you in prayers. Yes.
And I would just add to because everything that they said is very powerful. I would also add to that, keep going. It's going to be hard. I know. I just had the exact same experience happen at the end of the year. But I took that as a message from God. He said, it's your time. For 24 years, you were, working for someone else, and now it's time for you to do what you do. And do it in a way that, you're not trying to sneak and tell people, like, I do this too. And, trying to make sure I can still maintain, what I do in integrity, but not a conflict of interest. But I would say this is your time. This is it. These are the things that I remind myself of. I've had the opportunity to leverage my relationships. I think Upenda mentioned, getting outside of, some spaces that you're ordinarily in. But always remember those folks that you've already connected with. I would say collaboration is another big thing. But I hate to say it, but just do it. You know what your it is. Go for it. And do it unapologetically. I mean, it's gonna be hard, but I have to remind myself that I too can do hard things. Everything is not always gonna be really, really easy for me, right? A lot of things have come, easy for me because I'm smart. I can do it, right? And I push myself. But this is the hardest thing that I've done on my own, and I'm not by myself. God is with me. So I just keep my trust in him and my faith in him. And I just remember that I can do it. And I would say the same thing to you. All right? Yes.
I don't have a question, but I do have a statement that's on my spirit listening to you two. I want you to, I think sometimes when we hear starting brand new, it seems like what you did previously was not great. So if we change our mindset that you're pivoting. So what you're doing is you're pivoting where you are. You're taking all of those past experiences.
Absolutely.
And you're making a new right turn.
That's
and
right.
With that right turn, everything is going to be given to you that you have been deserving of it. And so in that pivot, just know that everything that is due will come in time. So even with starting over or in your new stay-at-home mom era, I have a 17-year-old, I still want to be a stay-at-home mom. With the millions that she was working, get ready for the multi-millions.
That's right.
So sometimes we just have to expand our thought process
Yes.
into that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because that's the other thing that I've been focused on. All the impact that I made before, how can I bring that into what I do today, right? So I have this lane, but then I also have that lane, but it's all a part of my purpose. So I'm trying to make sure that I also, pull that in because again, I'm still providing the impact and the legacy. It's all a part of my alignment and what I want to do as an individual. All right.
And Lisa, I just wanted to say something to the sister about 30 years old. Oh my gosh, that was like the best time of my life. Like my ideas, I could multitask. The brain works slower now. The brain was working on overdrive. You can do anything that you want to do, and with the power of like where you are right now.
Absolutely.
Yes. No worries about fear or limitation. You should really look at it like, wow, I have this opportunity with my child, but also to evolve myself as well. So,
absolutely. Love that. Absolutely. All right. Any more questions or comments before I move on and close us out? No? All right. So, ladies, what is one reminder or affirmation you want everyone to leave with? And I'll just throw it up to anybody who wants to go first.
but she's looking at you.
She actually called you.
Oh, I gave mine.
Ron
Okay, so I would leave you with this. Either be the plug, the person that starts it, or you be the extension cord, the person that's going to extend the impact. But whichever one you choose, because both are important, just make sure you're the best version of yourself.
There was a quote that my mom taught me as a little girl, and it didn't mean a whole lot to me when I was younger, but it means a lot to me now, especially how I move right now and being in nonprofits my entire career. And it's by John Bell, and it says, "I am bringing myself out of the strain of the doing into the peace of the done. For I have done so much with so little for so long, until I can do anything with nothing at all."
All right. That is deep.
I was over here like,
Look at John Bell. Look at John Bell.
John Bell's like,
right, John Bell, y'all, John Bell.
Okay.
Okay, for me, and I'm gonna read this verbatim from my notes. You are not too much. You have just been surrounded by people who are not enough for what you carry. Stop shrinking to fit in spaces that were never designed to hold you. You do not need permission to become who you were destined to be. That's what I will leave you.
Amen.
All right. Okay. Well, oh, you're asking me?
No.
Oh, you said that's it.
That was it.
That
is
it. I'm getting ready to close out. Thank you. So that is the end. I am so excited, y'all, that everybody came out today. Thank you so much for joining us. And I would just ask you to continue to walk in your purpose on purpose. All right? Thank you. Yes. All right. I think there's more food out there. There's time to network. And oh, she's pulling up John Bell. Oh, and then I wanted to mention Marquetta has her books here on sale. The books that are on the table, everyone can take one with them. Thank you, Georgia State. And then I also have some of my books here, my planner and my journals for sale. All right. Thanks, y'all.